A young, dumb boy named Taekyung was enjoying a sunny afternoon with his parents. He was filled with pure excitement because his father had promised to take him on the famous Dragon Express ride. At that moment, Taekyung believed that life was perfect and that his biggest challenge was simply getting to the front of the line. However, the world changed in a heartbeat when a real monster suddenly appeared and turned the theme park into a scene of heat and chaos. Taekyung was left alone in the middle of a nightmare, watching as everything he loved vanished into the smoke. After surviving that unthinkable tragedy, Taekyung grew up with a single goal in mind, which was to become a hunter and prevent others from suffering the same fate. He quickly learned that the world had transformed into a place where women held almost all the power. In this new society, female hunters were the ultimate guardians and celebrities, while men were rarely granted high ranks. Taekyung found himself in a very strange position because he was exceptionally handsome but possessed almost no combat strength. Instead of being a hero who fought monsters, he became a target of constant attention from his powerful female peers. High school life was less of an education and more of an endless ordeal of being treated like a rare prize. Taekyung could not even change his clothes without girls trying to take pictures or commenting on how cute he looked. His only protection came from his childhood friend named Kang Hoin, who would often scare away the other students with her fierce personality. She claimed him as her partner just to keep others at a distance, though Taekyung often felt that being under her wing was just another form of being managed like a pet. He spent his days feeling exhausted and wondering if he would ever truly become the warrior he dreamed of being. One evening, while he was lying in his room and feeling discouraged about his low rank, his phone suddenly buzzed with a mysterious notification. The screen announced that he had finally undergone an awakening, but the title of his new ability was something he had never heard of before. He was now officially designated as a manager for the intense, emotional, and cardio needs of high-ranking female hunters. The system explained that these powerful women carried a massive burden of stress and natural instincts that could not be easily controlled. According to the interface, Taekyung was the only one who could help them find balance and relief. As he looked closer at the details, Taekyung realized that he could earn special awakening points every time he helped a hunter manage her overwhelming energy. These points could then be traded for the legendary skills he had always wanted, such as master swordsmanship or powerful fire spells. It seemed like a very unusual way to become strong, but Taekyung decided he had nothing left to lose. He opened a map on the app and was shocked to see that the neighborhood was absolutely filled with high-level hunters who were currently struggling with their intense internal stress. Just as he was trying to process how many people nearby were in need of his assistance, a high-value signal on the map began moving directly toward his location. Taekyung watched in disbelief as the icon stopped right at his front door. He heard the sound of footsteps, and the door opened to reveal Hoon, standing there with a bright smile and a bag of food. He realized that the person the system identified as having the most urgent need for management was the very same girl who had been protecting him all along. Taekyung stood there in silence, realizing that his journey to becoming a top hunter was about to start in the most unexpected way possible. The evening sun began to fade as Taekyung and Hyun finished their meal together in the quiet of his home. Hyun was in high spirits and looked perfectly at home as she relaxed into more comfortable attire while humming a happy tune. Taekyung could not help but notice that she did not seem to have any intention of going home anytime soon. He watched her with a mixture of gratitude and complicated thoughts. After they finished eating, she insisted on doing the dishes to show her appreciation for his cooking, and Taekyung reflected on how she had been the one person who stayed by his side through everything after he lost his parents. As the sound of clinking dishes filled the kitchen, Taekyung found himself struggling with a serious internal dilemma. He knew that according to the system, the only way to gain the power he needed was to help Hyun manage her intense hunter energy and high levels of stress. He worried about whether it was right to cross the line from a long-standing friendship into something far more personal, especially since she was significantly more powerful than he was. He recalled an old memory from their school days, when she had teased him about the attention he received from other girls, and he had pretended to be completely bored by it all, just to hide his own awkwardness. Taekyung realized that he could no longer solve his problems by just sitting around and thinking about them. He knew that he had to take a brave step forward to earn the rare points that would finally change his destiny. Hoen turned to him with a bright smile and suggested that she stay for the night so they could finally catch up and watch movies together, since their busy schedules usually kept them apart. Taekyung recognized this as the perfect opportunity and decided he could not afford to be half-hearted if he wanted to succeed. He pushed aside his lingering hesitation and decided to act on the system's requirements by initiating a surprising level of sussy closeness. This sudden move caught Hun completely off guard, and her eyes widened in total shock. Taekyung felt a wave of nerves, but tried to maintain his composure by explaining that he had actually been hiding his true curiosity and feelings for a very long time. He admitted that his previous shy behavior was just a way to cover up how much he truly admired her presence. Hoon was initially stunned by his boldness because she was used to being the protector in their relationship. However, her expression quickly softened into one of genuine happiness as she realized that he was finally being open with her. She blushed deeply and told him that she would happily accept whatever he wanted to do as long as they were together. Taekyung felt his heart racing as he realized the mission was actually working and that the bond between them was growing in a direction he had never dared to imagine before. He marveled at the reality of the situation and the incredible connection he was finally making with the girl who had always been his closest ally. The morning sun brought a new sense of accomplishment as a digital notification confirmed that Taekyung had successfully fulfilled the conditions to receive a significant boost in points. Along with a healthy bonus, he found himself with a total of 95 fresh points and the exciting news that he could finally begin utilizing official hunter skills. As the clock struck 8 in the morning, he remained sprawled across his bed and looked like a man who had just finished an exhausting cardio marathon. He eventually reached for his buzzing phone to find several messages from Hoon, who had already left to handle her duties as a high-ranking hunter. She seemed to be in incredible spirits and told him to rest well while reassuring him that everything from the previous night was perfectly fine and that she would be back to see him soon. Taekyung looked at her sweet farewell and could not help but feel a bit dazed by how much their relationship had shifted in such a short amount of time. He lay there for a moment and reflected on the sheer intensity of their encounter, while acknowledging that he had not expected her to be so remarkably energetic. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, he sent a polite response wishing her a safe day and promising to see her again. When he finally gathered the energy to check his full system report, he was stunned to see that his total haul for the entire night was actually 340 points. The interface displayed a long list of specific achievements that he had unlocked, which made him realize that the system was keeping track of every single detail of his personal interactions. However, his moment of celebration was cut short by a sudden system alarm, which warned him that focusing on just one hunter for too long would eventually lead to diminishing rewards. It seemed the system wanted him to broaden his horizons and manage the needs of many different hunters if he wanted to keep gaining power at a high rate. Taekyung felt a brief moment of frustration as he realized he was essentially being encouraged to take on a very specific, professional role, but he quickly pushed those thoughts aside. He told himself that he was willing to accept any reputation as long as it meant he could finally protect himself and achieve the strength he had always wanted. With a determined smirk, he navigated the skill menu and spent his hard-earned points to upgrade his swordsmanship skill all the way to level 3. He felt the change immediately and realized that he was finally a real hunter after years of waiting and enduring the teasing of others. He knew that the path he had chosen took a very long time to open up, but he was finally ready to fulfill his childhood dream. As a dark and confident expression settled on his face, he realized that he was no longer the weak person he used to be and was prepared to take on whatever challenges the system had in store for him. There is an old saying that to catch a tiger, one must venture directly into the tiger's den, and in this world, that meant heading straight for a professional hunter's guild. Taekyung understood that beyond random chance encounters on the street, the only way to advance his new career was to immerse himself in the center of hunter society. He knew there were 3 major organizations dominating the landscape, including the prestigious Silver and Jade Company, which functioned through strict direct contracts, and the Free Hunters Union, where independent freelancers operated on their own terms. There was also the mysterious Ariel Foundation, but since its inner workings were a total secret, Taekyung decided it was best to ignore that option entirely. His logic was simple because even though Silver and Jade was clearly the top choice, it was also the home base for Hun and her intense personality. He realized that if he joined her guild, she would likely find out about his awakening and might even try to keep him locked away for his own safety. He needed to hide his newfound abilities and his future plans from everyone he knew, especially since he felt a bit guilty about using his childhood friend as a test subject for his first points. With his hood pulled low and his identity concealed, he made his way to the Free Hunters Union building, while hoping that no rumors about his presence would start spreading among the local hunters. When he finally reached the registration desk, the clerk was so surprised to see a man applying that he actually had to pause and verify Taekyung's identity. It was incredibly rare for a male to register as an active hunter, but Taekyung kept his cool and provided a fake name to protect his true self from unwanted attention. He officially became Kim Sung-chul and walked away with a probationary license and instructions on which dungeon channels were currently open for exploration. As he moved through the lobby, he noticed several hunters nearby, but his system indicated that their management values were quite low compared to the jackpot he had found with Hyun. He felt a bit picky because he was not particularly attracted to anyone in the room, and he knew he needed to be genuinely invested to make the system work effectively. his attention was suddenly captured by a striking hunter, dressed as a witch who possessed a significantly higher point value of 50. He realized that although staring was probably rude, a mission of that size was definitely worth the risk of a little social awkwardness. The witch gave him a sharp glare before disappearing through a warp gate, which only made Taekyung more determined to test his luck in the field. He stepped onto the platform and felt a surge of energy as he was transported to a gloomy location known as the Dark Forest. This was his first time back in a dungeon since his school days, and he took a moment to draw his sword and prepare for whatever was lurking in the shadows. It did not take long for a group of rank D monsters to track him down by his scent, but Taekyung was surprised to find that he was no longer afraid. He was eager to see exactly how much his level 3 swordsmanship had changed his physical capabilities. When the creatures lunged at him, he delivered a single powerful swing and was absolutely stunned to see all three of them sliced apart instantly. The force of his attack felt like a high-rank skill, and he realized that the impact of his awakening was far greater than he had ever imagined. He even managed to take down a much larger monster with relative ease, though the effort left him feeling completely drained and physically exhausted. Meanwhile, in the luxury of the Silver and Jade headquarters, Hun was having a very different kind of day. She sat by a spa pool and looked quite miserable, while wondering why Taekyung was not answering her calls or responding to her messages. She began to worry that she had been too forward the previous night, or that her sudden display of affection had scared him away. Even when her colleagues invited her out for a drink, she turned them down because her mind was entirely focused on the boy she had left at home. She realized with a deep blush that her stress levels were already rising again, and she desperately wanted to see Taekyung. Little did she know, her favorite management partner was currently deep in the woods and was just about to have another encounter with the mysterious red-haired witch who seemed to be reaching the end of her own patience. The rain poured down over the dark forest as Taekyung stood amidst the remains of his hunt, feeling the weight of his new reality. He eventually returned to the Free Hunters Union to trade in his haul of magic stones, where the clerk at the counter could hardly believe a probationary hunter like Kim Sung-chul had managed such a feat alone. After the commission was settled, Taekyung walked away with 450,000 won, a sum that made him realize he could finally afford to live independently without being a burden to Huan and her mother. He reflected on how his awakening was proving to be far more effective than he ever imagined, though he knew he needed to be careful not to rely on a single source for his points. Seeking a new challenge, he set his sights on the grave of the old tree, where the system's map indicated a high-value target was located. He arrived just in time to witness the red-haired witch, a rank A hunter named Cha Yuri, facing off against a massive rank B monster known as a Woodrello. Despite her high rank, Yuri was visibly struggling as her magic failed to manifest with any real power. She attempted to cast a wind spell, but instead of a devastating tornado, only a pathetic gust of air flickered from her staff. The giant tree monster took advantage of her weakness, lashing out with its vines and leaving her completely defenseless. Taekyung watched as the situation turned dire, realizing that her magic was being hindered by something far more personal than a lack of skill. Just as the monster was about to overwhelm her, he leaped from the shadows and snatched her away from the grasping vines, carrying her to safety in a move that was both heroic and slightly awkward. Yuri was immediately flustered and demanded to know what he was doing, accusing him of being a disgrace and a sneak for grabbing her so boldly. Taekyung simply stood his ground, noting that he had just risked his life to save her, while she was busy failing to cast a basic spell. As they retreated from the immediate danger, a system notification flashed before Taekyung's eyes, announcing an urgent quest. It explained that Cha Yuri had lost her combat effectiveness because she had reached the absolute limit of her internal, emotional, and physical stress. The system suggested that providing her with intense cardio relief was the only way to restore her magic to its full potential, offering a massive reward of 100 awakening points. Taekyung realized he could not let this opportunity pass him by, even if the method of helping her was unconventional. He decided to confront her directly about the blockage in her power, asking her how long it had been since she had found any real balance or relief in her personal life. When she admitted it had been 2 months since she felt like herself, Taekyung explained that her pent-up energy was literally choking her magic flow. Yuri was mortified and wondered if he was part of some strange cult, but she couldn't deny the truth of his words. He reminded her that despite her grumbling, she had subtly leaned into his touch when he was carrying her, suggesting that her body was already craving the cardio management he was meant to provide. Yuri eventually collapsed to the ground, feeling like a lost cause and wondering aloud who would ever want to go out with a woman whose magic had become so unreliable. She looked up at Taekyung with tears in her eyes, appearing more vulnerable than any rank A hunter should ever be. Taekyung looked down at her with a calm and determined expression, stating clearly that he wanted to be the one to help her through this crisis. He stepped closer and told her that he intended to go through with the cardio management process right then and there, leaving Yuri stunned as she realized her journey back to power was about to take a very unexpected turn. Standing in the middle of the dim forest, Taekyung finally gathers his courage and makes his move by asking the high-ranking witch if she is ready to go through with his unique management session. Yuri is momentarily frozen in disbelief, looking up at him while wondering if he is actually being serious about helping her. She finds herself grabbing his hand as she tries to process the idea that this handsome stranger is truly offering to spend such personal time with her. Her face turns a bright shade of red as she wonders if this is some kind of elaborate trick or if her luck has suddenly changed for the better. Taekyung tries to maintain a calm and composed expression despite the sweat beads forming on his brow. He realizes that even though she is a powerful Ranka hunter, Yuri suffers from a surprising lack of self-confidence. He attempts to ease the tension by telling her that he finds her incredibly charming and wonders why she is so hard on herself. However, his attempt at being smooth backfires when Yuri becomes suspicious of his overly kind words. She points a finger at him and accuses him of being a member of a strange cult, claiming that his friendly laugh is far too suspicious for a normal person in a monster-filled dungeon. Feeling his patience reach its limit, Taekyung experiences a momentary lapse in his professional demeanor. He clutches his head in frustration and shouts out his very honest and very direct intention to help her find the cardio relief she needs. This sudden outburst leaves Yuri completely stunned, her eyes widening as she tries to comprehend his bluntness. Taekyung quickly realizes how embarrassing his shouting must have been and lowers his voice, asking her to please just trust him despite the awkwardness of the situation. As the evening light begins to fade, Yuri decides that she needs a bit of proof before she can fully commit to such an unusual request. She lets her guard down and challenges him to prove that he is truly excited by her presence. She wants to know for sure that his interest is genuine and not just part of some strange mission. Taekyung feels a wave of nerves, but remains determined to earn those valuable awakening points. The reality of the situation hits Yuri all at once as she realizes they are still standing in a public hunting ground. She begins to panic about the lack of privacy, wondering if they are really going to go through with this, right next to the path where anyone could walk by. Taekyung simply points out that they do not have many other options given their current location. She realizes that her journey toward restoring her magic is about to begin in the most unconventional way possible, right there in the middle of the dark forest. Taekyung lets out a long breath of relief as he realizes that the first round of his official management duties is finally complete. He looks down at his partner with a sense of pride, thinking to himself that the experience was quite remarkable for his first time in such a professional role. Lying on the soft forest floor, Yuri seems equally dazed, her breath slowly returning to normal as she processes the intense cardio session they just shared. The system notifications begin to chime in a rapid sequence, announcing that he has successfully acquired a massive haul of points. He feels a surge of excitement as he sees the breakdown of 60 basic points and a 20-point bonus, followed by a huge 100-point reward for completing the emergency task. With a total of 180 points added to his balance, Taekyung feels like his career is finally on the right track. The morning sun begins to filter through the canopy as Taekyung wakes up feeling completely exhausted, looking like a man who just finished the most intense cardio workout of his life. Yuri is already up and appears to be in high spirits as she prepares to test her restored magic. She focuses her energy and recites a spell to call upon the wind, but the resulting force is far more powerful than she anticipated. Instead of a simple breeze, a massive surge of energy erupts from her hands, creating a spectacle that leaves Taekyung wide-eyed and clutching his chest in shock. He watches as her magic literally clears the path ahead, realizing that his management techniques have unlocked a level of power in her that is almost terrifying. Amidst the swirling energy of her spell, a valuable green crystal, known as a Woodrello core, drops onto the grass right in front of them. Yuri picks up the high-quality material and insists that Taekyung take it as a token of her genuine gratitude. He is momentarily stunned because he knows the item is worth over 600,000 won, which is a significant amount of money for someone in his position. Yuri gently explains that he is the reason her magic has returned and tells him not to take the gift too seriously. Taekyung accepts the core while feeling a bit guilty, reminding himself that he did not provide the cardio relief just to get a financial reward, though the extra cash certainly helps his situation. Yuri looks at him with a soft and playful expression, suggesting that since she gave him a hard time earlier, she really wants to give him a proper cardio introduction as a better way to say thank you. As they lean in and share a sussy moment, Taekyung is surprised to see the point icons appearing over her head once again. He realizes that even small gestures of cardio connection are a goldmine for his awakening system. This realization makes him understand that he cannot let this be a simple one-night encounter because he put far too much effort into taming a high-ranking hunter to just let her walk away. He decides that he needs to ensure there is a next time if he wants to keep his point income steady and reliable. As the sun climbs higher, they decide it is time to leave the forest before other hunters arrive and start asking questions about their disheveled appearance. They make their way to a nearby luxury hotel where the atmosphere remains surprisingly good. However, Yuri becomes visibly flustered at the check-in desk, admitting with a blush that her credit card is currently not working. She feels embarrassed that she cannot pay for the room, despite being the woman in the relationship. Taekyung simply gives her a charming smile and tells her not to worry about it, stepping up to handle the bill with the confidence of a man who knows he is an essential part of her team. Once they reach their room, the playful tension between them shows no signs of fading. Taekyung is busy settling in when Yuri suggests that, since they are both quite messy from their time in the woods, they should just go ahead and wash up together to save time. Taekyung can only marvel at how easy it has become to manage the needs of such a powerful hunter. He follows her lead while realizing that his journey to becoming the strongest warrior is turning out to be a very comfortable and rewarding adventure. Taekyung starts the morning on a high note by offering a gentle pat to Yuri's head as she rests comfortably beside him. He realizes that his system is quite generous when it comes to simple cardio moments, rewarding him with another 50 points and a nice 10-point bonus just for being sweet. The bright morning sun eventually fills the room, and Taekyung finds himself waking up to the sight of a very refreshed-looking witch. Yuri admits that she has worked up quite an appetite because they were both far too busy with their intense cardio management sessions yesterday to even think about eating. Taekyung playfully suggests that they could squeeze in one more cardio round of refreshing morning exercise before hitting the breakfast buffet, but Yuri is momentarily shocked by his seemingly endless stamina. She insists that food must come first this time, which makes Taekyung realize that the once fierce rank A hunter is now much more manageable than he ever imagined. After they finish their meal and prepare to leave the hotel, Yuri looks at him with a heart full of gratitude. She explains that she is thankful not only for the return of her magic, but for the way he made her feel special as a woman. Taekyung knows a good business opportunity when he sees one and decides it is time to make their connection a bit more permanent. He asks for her phone and saves his number under his fake name, telling her to reach out whenever she feels her stress levels rising again. However, he decides to lean into his new role by telling her that he will never see her again if she ever seeks this kind of relief from another man. The thought of losing him sends Yuri into a total panic, and she immediately promises that such a thing would never happen. She clings to him with wide eyes and promises to be completely loyal, which confirms Taekyung's suspicion that she is actually quite a pushover for a confident and headstrong man. He walks away with a confident smirk, realizing he has finally secured a consistent and very high-value source of awakening points. He reflects on how much his life has changed and looks forward to the next step in his journey as a top-tier hunter-manager. Even though his methods are a bit unconventional, he is satisfied knowing that he has successfully turned a powerful rank A witch into a devoted, regular client. Taekyung wraps up his time with Yuri by offering a final word of trust, which earns him a tidy sum of 50 points and a small bonus. After parting ways and returning to the safety of his own room, he finally has a moment to settle down and assess his progress. He realizes that he is down to his last few points after his recent upgrades, but is pleasantly surprised to discover a massive 50% off sale currently running in the system shop. He sees that reaching the prestigious level 4 in swordsmanship is now a very realistic goal if he can just find a way to secure a little more energy from his partners. Just as he is contemplating his next move, a notification from Hoon pops up on his screen. She is curious about his evening plans, and he decides that a home-cooked meal is the perfect way to bring her over. He offers to make the same fried egg curry she enjoyed so much last time, and tells her she does not even need to bring any ingredients. Hyun is clearly thrilled by the invitation and promises to head over the very moment she finishes her duties at the guild. Taekyung smiles as he prepares his kitchen, realizing that his schedule is filling up much faster than he expected, and that he will have very little time to actually rest. It does not take long for the sound of the door lock to signal her arrival, and he finds Hoin standing there, looking remarkably enthusiastic. She seems to have rushed over with such incredible speed that she did not even take a moment to freshen up after her shift. As he stands there in his cooking apron, he notices that she is already flushed and breathing heavily, as if her internal stress levels have reached a new peak. He notes that she must have run the entire way, and she admits with a bashful look that she simply wanted to see him as soon as possible. Hyun becomes a bit self-conscious and worries that she might smell like sweat after a long day of hunting. But Taekyung ignores her protests and pulls her. He tells her that he finds her quite pleasant. He realizes that her body is being much more honest about its needs than her shy words are. He can feel the intensity of her cardio energy and jokingly points out that her other half seems to have a mind of its own, despite her attempt to act like she only came over for the food. They eventually try to settle down for the meal, but the atmosphere in the room remains incredibly thick with anticipation. Kyun finds it nearly impossible to focus on her plate and eventually confesses that she has been holding back her intense feelings the entire time they were eating. She tells him quite boldly that she cannot wait any longer and wants to skip the rest of the pleasantries to start their cardio management session right away. Taekyung tries to play the role of the responsible manager by suggesting they should probably let their food digest first, but he quickly sees that she is completely beyond the point of listening to logic. He looks into her determined eyes and realizes that since she is not willing to wait a single second longer, he has no choice but to give in to her demands and get back to work. After another legendary cardio management marathon, Hyun is completely out for the count, having experienced a level of cardio relief she never knew existed. Taekyung wakes up as the morning light fills his room, realizing that his partner was so overwhelmed by the session that she actually passed out. The system chime confirms a successful haul of 70 points plus a 10-point bonus, but as he steps into the shower, he starts to notice a problematic trend. His entire body feels incredibly sore from working without rest, and he is disappointed to see that he earned far fewer points than he expected. He realizes that his management efficiency is plummeting because he has been focusing all his energy on the same person for too long. He understands that if he wants to maximize his gains, he needs to broaden his horizons and find new hunters who are struggling with their internal stress. Feeling like his stamina has hit its absolute limit, he decides to spend the rest of the day resting at home and plans to visit the guild the following morning once his body recovers. When the next day arrives, Taekyung is shocked to find himself feeling perfectly fine and energized despite 3 straight days of intense cardio activity. He realizes that his level 3 swordsmanship skill has been secretly strengthening his physique and enhancing his endurance to an incredible degree. He checks his point balance and sees he only has 55 points left, which is nowhere near the amount needed for the next swordsmanship upgrade. He considers picking up some basic fire or thunder magic instead, knowing that since he operates as a solo hunter to hide his awakening, he needs a versatile set of skills to stay safe. He eventually decides to put the skill purchases aside for a moment and heads out into the city at 6 in the morning. Even with his boosted condition, he finds the early hour to be quite hardcore as he wanders through the empty streets. The eerie silence gives him a suspicious vibe, and he half expects to be ambushed by a highly motivated and starving female hunter at any second. His intuition proves to be correct when he suddenly spots a striking blonde woman walking down the sidewalk with her morning coffee. Floating right above her head is a massive 100-point icon, a value so high it makes his heart nearly stop in his chest. He tells himself that he is not the type of person to get excited just by looking at numbers, but a jackpot like this is simply impossible to ignore. He recalls that even the powerful Hyun only started with an 80, which leads him to the internal realization that this woman must be a total monster when it comes to unfulfilled desires. He decides that as a professional manager, he simply cannot help himself and must step in to provide the assistance she clearly needs. Taekyung stands in the middle of the quiet city street and observes the striking blonde woman, while marveling at the giant numerical value floating above her head. He realizes that since his childhood friend was only an 80, this newcomer must be an absolute jackpot for his point collection. He notices a shimmering golden token hanging from her belongings and identifies it as a symbol of the prestigious aerial altar, which is a place reserved for the most elite members of society. Even though he knows engaging with someone that powerful involves a massive amount of risk, he tells himself that a professional manager simply cannot turn away from such a high-value opportunity. The following day at the Hunters Autonomous Union, Taekyung is surprised to find that his recent solo performances in the forest have earned him an immediate promotion to C rank. He observes the office staff and realizes that his new, unidentifiable mask is doing some serious heavy lifting, because they seem to judge him as a standard hunter rather than a rare male hunter. He accepts his new identification tag while reflecting on how he has climbed to this rank in just a single week. His eyes settle on the mission board for B-rank dungeons, and he finds his thoughts drifting toward the abandoned city where his life first took a tragic turn. He recalls the day his parents were taken from him, and how Hyun's mother was the one who finally put an end to the monster responsible. He understands that hunting the remaining creatures in that city will not technically count as revenge, but he feels an internal need to face the location as a big person. He soon finds himself walking through the desolate ruins of the city while reflecting on how much smaller and more manageable things should feel now that he has grown up. However, his calm is interrupted when a massive horned lizard emerges from the rubble, and he realizes that the scale of these creatures is still quite intimidating. Taekyung lunges into the fray and experiences the raw power of his level 3 swordsmanship as he delivers a series of heavy strikes. He takes a direct hit that sends him skidding across the pavement, but he is pleased to find that his strengthened physique allows him to stand right back up without much trouble. He decides that the situation calls for something more than just a blade and unleashes his newly purchased fire arrow magic. He watches as a barrage of flaming projectiles rains down on the monster and realizes that he is no longer limited to just being a swordsman. Amidst the smoke and debris of the battle, he hears a sudden cry for help and spots a woman being tossed through the air by the creature's tail.